Hello and welcome to Art Club. This tutorial was filmed live during one of my Art Club sessions. The group includes artists of all skill levels, from complete beginners picking up a brush for the first time, right through to the more experienced artists. So wherever you are on your own creative journey, you're in good company. These Art Club tutorials are usually on my paid for tier on Patreon, but this time I'm giving you this one absolutely free, so that you can have a taster and a sneak peek into what actually signing up to the Art Club tier might get you, and also to see if you like my style of teaching. To get you started, there's a list of all the materials you're going to need in the caption. There's also the reference photo available to download there. I'm going to talk you through this tutorial step by step, starting with an easy way to transfer an image. Then we'll use some fine liner to put in the details, and then we'll use watercolour to paint in the iconic blue doors and whitewash walls that you'd find in a little village street in Greece. The main focus of this painting is to capture the lovely contrast with the shadows of the bougainvillea over those blue doors and whitewashed walls. So I'll hand you over now to the evening's live recording, and I hope you really enjoy painting along with me. So let's get started. First step is to trace the image. So what you need to do is print out the image to the size that you want to do your painting. Then we're going to cover the back of that printout with graphite, and this is where I'm going to show you how to carry on from this point. And then we put, if I put that one there, so you just need to secure that page by taking some tape and putting two pieces at the top. And then just use a biro to trace. And what you want to do is trace the building lines, but we don't really want to have pencil lines around all of these shadows, because we're just going to paint those in. So by covering the back of this page with graphite, when we go over it with the biro, it will transfer the image onto the page. So it's a way of tracing, really, but it's quite effective. So I use a biro to do the tracing because it has a finer point. That's the only reason. You could use a pencil if you wanted. And what I'm doing is I'm tracing around all of the building lines. So all of the door frame, the details on the doors, the steps, the edges of the building. The foliage, we just want to be able to paint that in freely afterwards. So if you trace around all of those lines now, you're going to find it too difficult to follow it later on. So just leave all of those as they are. You're just focusing on the building, and I will show you in a moment what that looks like on mine. So just do a few lines around the shapes, like these darker patches on the floor and around the steps and things. Just jumping in at this point to say that I have filmed this in real time, and I'm not going to speed up any part of this tutorial so that you can paint along and draw along in real time. Of course, pause it if you need to. But there was quite a lot of chatter because I had a very full room on this one. So if it does go quiet, I might pop some nice background music on, but it is really just to cover up the fact that my lovely group of people who come to Art Club were chatting quite a lot, and I don't think they want their chatter all over the video. So that's why you might hear some nice music and I'll just jump in where needed. like. And then don't forget the dome of the church dome at the top. So you can see I've left all this space clear where the foliage is. I've just gone round the doors, the detail on the doors, the steps. I've missed a line on the wall there. So this sort of detail that goes around here, around the door frame, try your best to put that in. I've ignored this modern looking light thing. Put the door handle in. So that's where we are with that. It's the corner of the wall. So when it comes to like doing the longer lines on the fine liner, I tend to not do a full line. I'll do a bit of a broken line. You kind of have to not think too much about it. And I just think it kind of gives a bit of character to the lines that you're drawing. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight or neat or whatever, but just some of them can be solid lines, some of them can be lines with a bit of a break in them. That you can make the lines look a bit wonky. And just and if they just happen to be wonky, you can just say, well, that's art, isn't it? You know. Yeah. I can just it was meant to be like that. And then if you're fine linered, then, and once you've finished, you just need to rub out the pencil lines that are sort of still visible. If you're not using fine liner, don't rub out your pencil lines. Okay. Okay. Right, are we ready to start painting? Yes, okay. Okay, so a lot of what we're going to do is not wet in wet, it's just wet paint onto dry paper. So usually we do loads of water first and then paint, but we're going to try it this way today. So we're going to start with the doors. So we're going to do the blue first. So we're going to do a light wash of blue. Ignore all the shadows. All of this shadow is put on last, and that is put on top of the dry paper with the paint on. So we're just going to be painting the door, that door, and the dome. And I have used Cobalt Blue, just a nice bright blue, really. It's the one that you can match the nice sort of blue domes in Greece. Santorini. I don't know if they have them elsewhere in Greece, they probably do, but Santorini is most famous for the blue domes, isn't it? So Cobalt Blue. So you want to mix up your Cobalt Blue. And if you mix because we're not putting water first, you could make this a little bit more watery, because we do want it to be quite light, so we want it to be dilute, not too dark. So if you can see here, that's quite liquid. I might add a bit more water. See how it's quite liquid? So it's not too dark. And pretty much, I'll start with this door. I've got a load of paint on there. I'm just going to block in that door. I think I've painted mine a little bit too dark, but that's okay. We can still go darker with the shadow. So there, nice and even. And then you want to do the same with the other door. I've not put the top line of the door on my drawing. That's not very useful. So you see I'm missing the top. Let's just put that in. Oh, blend in the paint. There. Got that bit there. And then that bit there. As well. Oops. Now with the dome, you could do a little bit of highlight on one side and shadow on the other. So if you put your light wash on first. I've got a bit too much water on there. Where is the light coming from? You can see in the black and white photo that there's a little bit of, it's a very sunny day, isn't it? There's a bit of shadow on this side here, just a little bit, it's lighter here. And also with the way that the shadow is being cast on the wall, I'd say that the sun is really top right. So what you want to do is just put a bit stronger paint. So I'll go maybe from the pan. And while that's still wet, you can just drop a little bit of darker paint on the one side. The technique is called charging, because you're sort of charging that side with more paint, and it's going to blend softly onto that wet area of paint. So you can put a bit of shadow on, even it out. That's just a little practice there for that technique. So once we've done the doors and the dome, we're going to do this sort of stony colour that's on the steps. So to get that colour, I mixed it. If you've got like a stony brown colour, I don't know what it would be called. Maybe a bit of burnt sienna, but not so red, because burnt sienna is quite red. The way I'm going to do it is by mixing one. So this might be quite useful to know. So I'm going to start with the yellow ochre. And what I want to do is desaturate the yellow from the yellow ochre. So to neutralise colours like that, what you do is you mix in the complementary colour. And by mixing complementary colours together, you get a browner version, basically, of those colours. So, because they cancel each other out. So, on the colour wheel, opposite yellow is purple, I think. So, I'm mixing, I'll just put this over here. Oh, hang on. Let's put some tissue and I'll show you. So, I've mixed some yellow ochre into there. And then I'll mix some purple into it, and you can see the colour change as I mix the purple in. So I'm just taking, it's called Dioxazine, I think. Dioxazine, purple, violet, yeah. It's like it's a cooler purple. So I'll just take a bit, actually. I think I've probably got a bit too much there. So put some purple into there. So I've got purple in the brush, and I'm going to just mix it in. You see that colour change from bright yellow to a more stony yellow? It's actually got a little bit more got a red tinge to it now. So did you see that? Or so actually I'm quite happy with that colour. It's just basically, it's just taken down the yellow. And that was just one brush. I actually took that purple out of the brush, so that would have been too much. So I'll just try it again, just in case you didn't see. Let me take the green out of there. And it's quite a useful one, because if you have got something that you want to paint, but you haven't got a colour that matches, you think, well, actually, it just needs to be that colour, but a bit not so bright. So you've got yellow ochre. And then I'm going to take a little bit of that purple. And if you watch now, that yellow ochre, when I add the purple, changes to a darker, like a stony, yellowy, browny colour. And that's a bit of colour theory there. That is quite useful. You can do, so like red and green, they're opposite on the colour wheel. So what's opposite blue? Orange. So blue and orange, you would get like a brownie colour. So I've done it in the past where I've mixed blue with burnt sienna, because that's like a reddy orangey colour, and you get a nice grey colour there. So yeah, the colour theory is quite complicated, but some of the things, if you do remember them, a bit like magic really. So, but useful to know, especially if you've got a limited palette. You only need really red, yellow, blue and grey or black. You can mix all the colours you need. So we're going to use that stony colour, and we're going to do exactly the same as what we just did with the doors, except we're going to do the steps and the ground here. There's a little bit of shadow on this side, on this face here of the wall. You might want to make that quite dilute. This is quite strong here. It's all right for the floor because it is that colour. So you just want to block in those steps. How's your fine liner doing? Fine. Is it? Okay, yeah. That's all right then. It's just because it didn't say on the packet, so you just don't know. Well, you could still use, if it wasn't, you could still use it. You just paint and then do your fine line once it's dry. But sometimes when you do this sort of like style, you want your lines in your drawing, so that when you put your wash on, you know where you're painting. So. Okay, so for the face that's facing away in the shade, I've just diluted that colour and made it quite light. So it's just adding a bit of shadow detail on it. There we go. Someone in the room points out to me now that I haven't painted in the step on the door on the right hand side. So this is my response. Oh yeah.
Yeah, is that got to be coloured in as well?
Yeah, I just haven't painted that bit yet.
Okay.
I was testing you. Yeah. You passed.
With flying colours?
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah, I've made that bit a bit darker because it is in the shadow, but we will be painting over it after anyway. So, okay, so we're going to paint the foliage next. So we need to do two greens. We need a sap green, which is going to be our lighter green, and then we need a dark green. So you could either do sap green with some Payne's grey mixed into it, or there is one called Hooker's green, which is a nice dark green, but essentially we want light green and a dark green. And then also I have used permanent rose. It's either permanent rose or rose madder. I think it's permanent rose I've used for the foliage. So you're going to need your two greens for the flowers, sorry. It's a bougainvillea and they're nice bright pink. So you want a really nice, strong, bright pink, and a light green and a dark green. And you need to have each colour in a different well, and just mix quite a bit of it. And then I'll go through how we're going to paint that afterwards. So if we just get all the colours all mixed and ready, and then I'll explain how to paint it. Right then, have we got our colours mixed? Sort of, okay. So what we want to do, because we're not putting any water first, we're just going to paint directly on. So if you have a look at where the green areas are, basically along the building edge I have done green. Then I've done areas a bit like larger clumps of the pink in the middle, and then I've put some more green in and around as well. So we'll just do some of the green first. You can see that I've left plenty of little white spaces, and we want that because that's the light coming through, really, the sort of dappled effect. We want the dappled effect up here because that's what's going to make this dappled effect look like it's the shadow of this. So the way I paint this, you can use a big brush or a small brush. I'm going to use the big brush. There we go. So, sap green. I'm going to just use the lighter green first, and I'm going to do some of this up here. I'm just going to do, and I'm going to sort of do some dabs, do some squiggles, do some dabs, and do some squiggles. And then you can do some areas where you push the brush down a bit more, it makes a larger area, but you do also want some where we're keeping the light in between the foliage. So I've done that bit there. I'm just going to do a bit more over here now. Okay, so this is why we didn't want any pencil lines in this area, because we can just paint, and however it goes on is how it's going to look. So you just want to make these little marks. You see, I'm just lightly using sort of the tip of the brush. And what you can do is put these little areas in, and then we can add to it afterwards. So if I add some of the darker paint here now. So if you have a look on here, this side, I have gone over the top here with these ones. So try not to put any of these green parts over the door where we haven't painted yet. Just stay at the top, because we can add the darker green on afterwards as well. So do a few bits like this in and around, and it's a little bit darker in here. But try and, so this part here is further away as well, so you want to do smaller marks over this side, just a little bit smaller. And then you can do larger marks over here because this part is closer towards us. And that helps with the perspective. So you just want to go around. So once you've done a little bit on the green, you don't have to fill and do all of the green at once. Make sure you wash your brush really well, and then switch to the pink colour. What you don't want to do, because this is all wet paint still, because I've only just put that on, you don't want the pink to touch where you've put the green, because you'll get the two colours mixing, and then pink, which is a red, and green, which is opposite on the colour wheel, you're going to get mixing and it's going to go funny colour. So just do the same sort of marks, but with the pink. And you'd want to do little clusters of them, because I could come back, do a little bit down here. I can always come back to this part and maybe make it a bit denser and put a larger area in. So just take a little bit of time, and we're aiming to paint all of this pink and green section. This building up the top here, we can paint up and over it now because we're not really going to add much to that now. So if you want to do your pink flowers over that, then you can do that part now. Just try not to come down below this line here. Okay, so if you want to spend a bit of time doing that. So I've got mine to a stage now where it's all looking quite the same, and the amount of white in between the colours is all the same. And what we want is we want to make it look a bit denser towards the building. So these parts here need to be a bit more, I need to paint a bit more in basically, but leave this top part a bit more spaced out like it is. And when this is dry, so I think some of this is dry, I'm just going to go in and paint a little bit more. So we're going to paint out some of those white areas in here, and that will help. So if you look at this one, it's a lot denser. I've painted the pink and the green right next to each other because I've let one dry and then I've painted the other colour next to it. And that's going to help with the dense shadows directly on that part of the building as well. The next step we're going to paint is the shadows. We need to mix the colours, so I think we'll mix the colours first and then I'll explain about the shapes of the shadows, because the shapes that we paint in on here, that's going to give us a more realistic look of how the shadows are being cast on the buildings, bit of perspective and things like that. So firstly, let's mix the colours. We need a warmer purple and a cooler purple. So warmer is a more red purple and cooler is a more blue purple. If you've got the colours in tubes, great. So you want one that looks a bit more blue and one that looks a bit more red. If you haven't, the way I've done this, I've mixed the cobalt blue that we used earlier and the pink that I used for the flowers. So all I've done is mix two wells of the same colours, but one with more blue in it and one with more pink in it. So I'm going to do that now. So here I've got, this one has got more of the permanent rose or rose madder in it. This one has more cobalt blue, and you can see the colour difference. I think this one's a bit stronger than the other one, so I might need to just top that up with some more paint. Right. So the direction of the shadows is going to help us with the perspective of the painting. So if you look at the black and white photo, so you've got the door frame here. This face is facing this way. This wall is facing that way. So where the light is coming in from this side, I'm presuming because the shadows go in there, the light's sort of pointing this way. So this face here, you can see the shadow is pretty much a direct copy of what the shapes you can see up here on the foliage, on these parts here. And also the same facing, so that's facing this way. This door is also facing this way in the same direction. And you can see that the shapes you've got here are the same as this door here. So that is pretty much just the same shape as what you can see up here. This wall, which is facing that way, the shadow is elongated. Can you see how that shape is stretched all the way down that wall? And this stretching is because of the perspective, because of the way the sun is and the shadows hitting that wall. You can see that this here is this part, but here is also this part, and it's come stretching down on this part of the wall. Then when the perspective of the wall changes, the shadow changes. Can you see that now that I've sort of pointed it out? Okay, so that's what we're looking for when we're sort of going to replicate these shadows. You want to take sort of note of what you can see there. So there's a little wall here that you can see those elongated shapes, which is the same as this. This column here is sort of rounded, so they're almost the same as this flat face here. So I have tried to, on this one, replicate that. So you've got here the small, very much similar to how we painted that part, but on here the shapes are elongated. And then again here, very much the same, just sort of copying what we've got there. Okay, so that's one thing to think about. Then the next thing is, you can see where the light part is. Actually, most of the wall is this medium tone of grey, which is actually not grey, it's going to be this light purple or the dark purple. So all of this is actually painted in, like what I've done here. It's all purple of either the light or the dark. And then I've left a few areas of the white page, which is the white wall highlight. So it might seem a bit backwards to start painting the wall purple, but when it's sort of, when you finished it in relation to the white parts and the highlight, it will make sense. So like this wall here is in the sun. I haven't painted any of that. Then you've got your sun here, where that's white, but most of it is purple. So the way we're going to tackle this is by doing a section at a time. So we're going to do this part of the wall, we'll do this column, then this inner part here, and we'll just work our way across. Actually, we probably work the other way because everybody's probably right-handed in here. I know there's one lefty, and I'm lefty, but most people are right-handed. So we'll go, because you'll be painting that way. So we'll go from left to right. Okay, so on the left, what have we got? We've got the face that's facing us, so it's pretty much carbon copy of the same shapes that you've got up here. Now, we don't have to be that accurate with copying what we've painted here because I haven't done it here and it sort of looks right. I think as long as we've got the shape of the shadow right and it's roughly the same, you're not going to notice that, well, we've painted that bit there. We could maybe do a bit down here that's going to sort of look similar. What I'm saying is don't think too hard about what your shadow looks like. Just try and copy really what we've got there. So, what have we got? I'm going to put that like that. So this is also, although it's casting a shadow and the shadow it's casting is probably all the same colour, because this is on this door, it looks a lot darker than what we've got here on this white wall. So here I'm going to use the dark purple. I have actually filled in all of that with the dark purple. And I've put a bit of light purple up there, so we'll start with that. The lighter purple is just to basically colour the wall so that it's not as bright as the very bright highlights. So let's put a little bit of so I'm going to say lighter purple is the one that's more red because it's a warmer colour. Darker purple is the one that's more blue because it's the cooler colour. So lighter purple, I'm just going to block that part in there and then do a few little dabs. And we need to let that dry before we do any more dark purple on the top. So just that part there for now. So while we're waiting for that to just dry a bit, we'll do some of the dark purple on the door. So you can do this on the door frame, but let's just do the part that's actually on the door. I haven't painted the door frame blue, have I? This door frame should be blue, the same as the door. But what we could do, you've all done the same as me. Okay, so let's paint the door frame in the blue, if you've still got some blue. Just a bit of light cobalt blue. There we go. And we'll give that a moment to dry. Because we're not putting water first, it won't take ages to dry. Well, it shouldn't do anyway. Even just by putting that bit of lighter purple there, it's started to look like shadow already. So, okay. So on the part of the door that's dry, you want to do the same sort of pattern that you did up here with the brush. And we want to create some nice dark shadows, and it sort of comes across in this diagonal and down this part of the door. So you could make that really nice and dark there, and then just a few dabs. So towards the top of the door, try not to leave loads of white, not white, but sort of space in between. You want to do that as you come further down the door. So while we're waiting for those bits to dry, after we've done that part, I think we'll try this wall here, just this section. So that's still the dark colour, the cooler blue. But this is where we need to really take notice of the direction of this shadow. So it's diagonal. So what I would do is, where the shadow is pretty much solid at the top here, this top corner, start up there and then work your way down. So you want to get some brush marks in to give you that direction. So you want to do some brush marks that are in that diagonal. So you don't want them to be as defined more. So you can see that they're more, you can see the brush shape there, whereas here we want this stretched, elongated diagonal. And you can go right up to the foliage there, and maybe even some of this where there's white areas in that foliage, just darken it. Down this line here, there should be, because this column next to it is casting a shadow, so you should have the column's shadow on there as well. So that should be like a solid purple line with the shadow of the flowers coming off it. And you can see on this one, the shadow comes down this wall and actually continues on the floor, and you can see the change in shape there as well. So you've got the elongated shape, and then you've got this, which almost goes back to a normal, bit like what we've done on the door. So your shadows that are further down the bottom can come down in the diagonal shape. And then when you get to the floor, because we change direction, you can change back to doing that sort of shape. And what you can do is just, you can go over some of the areas just to darken them as well, because you don't always get as dark as you want to be with that first layer of paint. Okay, so now that these areas here, where we did the door frame and the light purple, they're probably dry by now, hopefully. So we're going to just join up these shadows, because if you have a look here, this shadow covers all of this. It goes from here all the way over. So we've got a line in the middle. We don't want the line in the middle. So on these flat faces, we can do the ones that look similar to the foliage, and then you want the diagonals. Well, actually, that's flat face as well, so there we go. Just make sure some of your diagonals match up to the door, and that's going to help with the sort of making it look like all one shadow. So because we've painted this part and it's still a bit wet, I don't really want to paint the bit right next to it. So we'll pick another piece. We'll go with this column on the inside of the door frame here, which is the same face as the door. So, and it's quite dark. So we'll do that in the dark purple. In fact, I need to mix a little bit more because I've used it all. Okay, so I'm going to do this section here and same dark purple, same as the same texture and look as that part on the door. So you can make it quite solid colour at the top and then just do a few lighter parts as you move down, further down, and then more and more. Well, actually, that whole section, can you see it? The whole section here, that's solid shade, and then the dappled light is pretty much the same all the way to the floor there. So if we colour that section in a bit more, I might have gone a bit dark with that colour, but good contrast, it'll look all right. So you want to create that dappled effect. And it is just squiggles, really. So again, while we're waiting for that to dry, we could do a bit of the dark purple on this top wall in amongst the foliage. And that will just give the look, it'll give the impression that the shadow is moving up this building there. So in between some of this here, not all the way up, but the wall, this wall, although that wall stops there, it looks like it goes a bit further up. This wall goes a bit further up. So just add a little bit in there. Bit of dark around there. Okay, so again, we've just painted that. We're going to move on to a slightly different area. This column here that's next to the door, but behind this one, is solid shade. So I'm going to do that in the lighter, so the more red colour. And you're just going to block that one in. And if you can block in just a bit of around the door frame there as well, around the top, next to the foliage. And then we may as well do this column next to it. So we've got the column that we've just blocked in, which is that one, and then the one next to it has got some dappled light on it. So we'll do it with the lighter colour. Doing it with the two different colours also gives the picture a little bit more interest. So although it probably doesn't need the two colours, I do think it helps on some of it. You just have to think about where you want that to be. I've decided that the shadows that are slightly further away or further back are darker than I'm using the cool blue, and the ones that are closer to us I'm using the warmer. So it's almost just blocking it in at the top of that column, and then it breaks out into the dappled light further down. And again, take note of the shape. So it's a little bit stretched because I think these are rounded columns, but it's not as stretched as what we saw there. So we've got down to, if I push the page up, so this section here has got a different shaped face. You can see the shadow is diagonal on this part as well. So it's just really having a look at the way the shadows and the shapes are. It's going to make your picture look like it makes sense. So on this face here, I'm going to do some diagonal shapes. I actually think there's probably a bit of a line there where this column changes shape. And because we're using the same colour, may as well do this part here, which is the edge of your painting. Pretty much, it's quite blocked in really. So I'm just going to do a bit of that so it joins up. So we've painted those three columns in the same colour, but I do think that this one, because it's set back a little bit, needs to be a bit darker. So all I'm going to do is go over that one again with that same colour, but put in another wash on it, darkens it. So it's still the same colour as the bit underneath, it's just a darker version. So if these bits are dry, which mostly on mine are, we'll do this left-hand side of the door. On this one, I have done it the same sort of colour. So we've just done that part. I've done this pretty much the same. So we've got purple, the lighter, more pinky purple on these two columns here. And the shape is a bit diagonal here. Can you see that little bit in between? Have we already done that? No, we haven't. Little bit in between is the same face as that, but this column is rounded, so it's more like what you can see there. Can you see that? There's just a very small bit of wall right there that's got this diagonal. I've drawn the line in. So I'm going to use the lighter purple. Just block it in at the top and then do these diagonal shapes. Try and keep them the same diagonal as well as what you did here, if you can. So just on that part. And then you can do the next bit straight after because we're doing the same colour and you want to go back to doing the flower shape. We'll do some of the shadow that falls onto the floor now, because you can see it does go down here. So we've just done these in this lighter colour, but because these shadows are on this browny colour that we've done, they appear darker. We've also got a bit of a shadow here for the door, there. So I have done them on my original painting in the dark purple. So all of this that's fallen on the floor in this darker, more blue purple, and I've also gone over some of this area where we've done the lighter pink with some darker shadows as well. So let's get that one done. So you can see that when it's on the floor, well, you've got that face, which is the same aspect as this wall. There's some diagonals here. And then when it goes onto the flat, onto the floor like there, we've got this, the normal shape that we're doing. And it's pretty much the same down here. So we'll put those in now with the darker purple. You can also put some darker purple at the top as well. Add a few more shadows in there. And that's pretty much it for the shadows. We've got a couple of things left to do. We can darken this door because it's a bit too light, it needs to be darker. You could put some darker blue detail around the detail on the doors and sort of where the doors join and on the floor there. And now that we've put in the purple, we can put some green foliage over the lighter parts. You can put some green foliage and over the door if you want to. So to darken the door, I'm just going to do another wash, like we did another wash here to make this bit darker. Just going to do another wash of the Cobalt Blue. Not going to do the whole door. I'm going to pick up on the detail in these little sections. Is a bit darker where the doors meet together, and then right at the edge of the frame as well. You could make the foliage a bit darker if you wanted. Do some darker green. Oh, we were going to put more green. So you can put some green. Oh, I've just painted the door. I'm going to have to let it dry. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's let it dry for a moment. So you could bring some of the green down from where it is over the walls a little bit to match some of the shadows if you wanted to. So you could do a few bits like that where it's dry. Maybe some up here. Just trying to think what else. I think pretty much that's it really. It's just sort of defining some parts. That's the original there. So I did a little bit of detail on the doors. So if you wanted to, if all this foliage is dry, you could go round with your fine liner and go round the bits that you've drawn, or you could leave it like that. I think I'll leave that one up to you. But yeah. Just need to book a holiday and go there now. Yes, a holiday to Santorini would be lovely right now. So that is the Greek village scene in watercolour line and wash complete. I really hope you've enjoyed it. I would love to see some of your work. You can post it on one of the chats on Patreon, or just tag me on social media on Instagram and Facebook. If you've enjoyed this art club session, you can sign up. There's 2 tutorials a month for that one, or there is the higher tier, which is in the studio, and you get a little bit more for that one. But for now, I'll just leave you with some of the work that the people in the art club created on the night. And again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on another one.